One moment can change eternity. Blaise Pascal. Before we begin, here's a small ritual. Write in the comments one word that accurately describes your current state. Sign it and let's get started. Butterfly wings tremble in the air, and somewhere far away, the world shifts. A leaf falls from a tree, brushing against a stranger's shoulder, and for a brief second, the universe hesitates. This is not magic. This is not a fairy tale. This is the butterfly effect, the science of chaos, the psychology of deep patterns shaping reality. Imagine standing on a busy street, watching people rush by. A man drops his coffee cup, curses under his breath, and misses the green light. Because of that, he avoids a car accident 1 block away. A woman receives a random phone call that delays her by a few minutes, and on that delay, her entire career pivots. These are not isolated accidents. These are threads, stitched into a vast tapestry, weaving stories with every choice, every hesitation, every encounter. The butterfly effect teaches that even the smallest change in initial conditions can lead to vastly different outcomes. Scientists have tested this in weather patterns, showing how tiny atmospheric changes can alter storms. But the deeper truth goes beyond physics. In psychology, the butterfly effect appears as the subtle influence of early memories, the ripple of childhood moments shaping adult identity. Think of a child hearing a harsh word from a parent. That one word becomes a seed, sprouting into beliefs, fears, motivations. Years later, the same person struggles with self-worth, believing they are never enough. Was it just a word? No. It was the flap of a butterfly's wings, setting in motion a storm inside. The world is not random. There are no isolated dots. Each moment connects to another, often invisibly. A glance, a sigh, a choice to stay or to leave. These are the instruments of fate. People underestimate the power of the small. They believe only big decisions matter, but the truth is, the small ones set the stage for everything else. Psychological research reveals the mind's bias toward ignoring small events. Cognitive shortcuts push us to focus on major milestones, forgetting that those milestones are often built on a foundation of tiny, seemingly irrelevant moments. A chance meeting, an overheard sentence, a delayed train. All these carry weight. The butterfly effect also explains why we cannot fully control life. Even with detailed plans, tiny, unpredictable variables change outcomes. This is not an argument for surrender, but a call to awareness. When you realize the power of small moments, you start to pay attention. You begin to listen to life's whispers instead of waiting for its shouts. Consider a man who misses his flight. He spends the night in a strange city, wandering the streets, where he meets someone who later becomes his business partner. Years of success unfold from that missed flight. On the surface, it looks like luck or coincidence, but beneath, it is the logic of chaos at work. The same applies to relationships. A text message not sent, a meeting postponed, an unexpected smile. All of these alter relational dynamics. Love stories often begin or end on moments that seem trivial at the time. The butterfly effect is alive in every touch point, in every skipped heartbeat. This is why the idea of pure coincidence fades under closer examination. When we trace the roots of major events, we find ourselves led back to minor ones. The promotion that changed a life was linked to a project chosen randomly. The friendship that saved someone from despair began with a spontaneous invitation. The world responds to our presence in ways we rarely understand. Every action, even in thought, carries a ripple. Neuroscience shows that repeated thoughts strengthen certain neural pathways, shaping perception and behavior. What begins as a passing idea can become a dominant narrative in a person's life. The butterfly effect lives inside the brain, forming and reforming who we are. The chaos of the world is not disorder. It is a deeper order, too complex for us to fully map, but always in motion. A butterfly's wings remind us of this complexity, of the dance between fragility and power. When you touch one life, you touch many. When you change yourself, you shift the orbit of those around you. This is the first secret. There are no small things. There is no meaningless action. There is no wasted breath. Every gesture, every pause, every word shapes the unfolding of the world. And when you begin to see this, life stops being random. It becomes a conversation, a dialogue between you and the vast, trembling web of existence. The world carries memory in its bones. Nothing disappears without a trace. A word spoken lingers in the mind. A touch leaves an imprint on the skin. Even silence echoes in the corners of a room long after people have gone. This is not poetry. This is how the human psyche works. Psychologists call it implicit memory, the kind that shapes our choices without us even noticing. A person who once felt abandoned as a child might later struggle with attachment in relationships, even if they no longer consciously recall the childhood wound. The butterfly effect is not just about external events. It lives inside, in the soft wiring of the brain and heart. History, too, remembers. Nations carry wounds through centuries. An old injustice resurfaces in modern protests. A forgotten treaty shapes the borders we take for granted. The butterfly effect explains how collective memory builds into collective identity. One revolution leads to another. One act of rebellion plants seeds for future change. We like to believe in clean breaks, fresh starts, but reality is layered. When a forest burns, its ashes feed the next generation of trees. When a relationship ends, its lessons ripple into future love. Nothing resets completely. The past breathes through the present. Technology amplifies this effect. Algorithms track behavior, nudging decisions in subtle ways. You click on one video, and 1,000 more appear, shaping taste, mood, even worldview. The butterfly effect rides on data streams, feeding on human patterns, turning randomness into design. Even ecosystems operate this way. Remove a single species from an environment, and the balance collapses. Introduce a new predator, and everything shifts. The world is a delicate choreography, and each player matters. There is no such thing as an insignificant creature, an irrelevant detail. The same applies to personal transformation. A small habit, waking up 10 minutes earlier, practicing gratitude, taking one deep breath before reacting, ripples outward. Over time, these shifts redefine identity. Neuroscience shows that small, repeated actions rewire the brain, creating new neural highways. The butterfly flaps its wings, and the person who once felt powerless becomes someone entirely new. Socially, this plays out in unpredictable ways. One person standing up to injustice inspires another. A single act of kindness softens a stranger's hard day, changing how they treat the next person. The butterfly effect pulses through crowds, through communities, through cultures. There is beauty and danger in this. Chaos does not care about morality. A careless insult can echo through generations. A moment of courage can uplift entire lineages. The key is awareness. When you understand that every action matters, you begin to choose with care. In relationships, the butterfly effect explains why timing is everything. Meet someone a week earlier, and the connection sparks. Meet them a week later, and the window is closed. Life is not a straight line. It is a dance of converging and diverging paths, shaped by timing, mood, and circumstance. This raises the question not of control, but of attention. Control is an illusion in a chaotic system, but attention gives power. When you notice the patterns, you can ride the wave instead of drowning in it. You learn to work with life's currents, to read its subtle signs, to respect its delicate architecture. So, the butterfly beats its wings. A leaf trembles. A person glances up at the sky, wondering why their heart feels suddenly lighter. And the world shifts again, by a fraction, by a breath, by a heartbeat. Behind every system, there is an invisible web. The world is not a collection of isolated pieces, but a living network where everything touches everything else. When one thread moves, the entire web trembles. This is not just philosophy. This is the architecture of reality. Modern science confirms what ancient wisdom has always whispered. Quantum physics speaks of entanglement, where two particles, separated by great distances, still affect each other instantly. In biology, ecosystems reveal intricate dependencies. Remove bees from the equation, and entire food chains collapse. Even in economics, a tiny shift in one market can cascade into global consequences. And then there is the digital realm, where algorithms shape lives with every scroll, click, and like. The recommendation you receive on a platform is not random. It is the result of countless data points. What you watched, where you paused, which thumbnail caught your eye. These micro decisions build into macro patterns. You are not just consuming content, you are helping craft the system itself. Psychologically, the butterfly effect works through priming. Studies show that small cues, a warm cup of coffee, a smile, even a certain scent, can alter how people behave. Hold a warm drink, and you rate others as kinder. Smell citrus, and you become more likely to clean. The mind responds to signals we often overlook, building meaning from fragments. Consider relationships again. One unsent message can haunt for years. One impulsive confession can redirect a lifetime. The butterfly effect explains why regrets often circle around small moments, not grand failures. We sense, deep down, that the little things carry enormous weight. Society itself runs on this principle. Revolutions begin with whispers. One voice speaks out, another joins, and soon the streets fill. A meme, a video, a phrase goes viral, reshaping public opinion overnight. The power lies not in the size of the spark, but in the conditions it meets. The butterfly flaps its wings, but only the storm-ready sky will erupt. Even chaos has its algorithms. Fractals, those endlessly repeating patterns, reveal how disorder can hold symmetry. Nature balances randomness with order, unpredictability with rhythm. Human life mirrors this. We wake in the same bed each day, yet no 2 days are identical. We follow routines, yet every routine births surprises. This tension between control and surrender marks the dance of existence. We build plans, knowing they may fall apart. We make promises, knowing the world may interfere. Yet we keep going, keep choosing, keep acting, because choice itself is the song of life. And every choice, however small, sends out ripples. Personal change often starts where chaos meets awareness. A person wakes up one morning, tired of their reflection, and decides to walk a different path. The decision may look spontaneous, but it is the fruit of countless unseen moments, thoughts, frustrations, tiny recognitions. The butterfly effect has been at work all along, preparing the ground. This is why true transformation feels both sudden and inevitable. It bursts through like lightning, yet when it arrives, it feels like coming home. The butterfly has been flapping its wings in the background for years. On a societal scale, change ripples through stories, media, art, conversation. They plant seeds in the collective mind. One novel changes how a generation sees love. One speech reframes justice. One photo softens hearts toward distant suffering. Culture is a feedback loop of butterfly wings, stirring winds across borders, oceans, and minds. Importantly, the butterfly effect is neither inherently good nor bad. It amplifies what is present. A spark of hatred spreads like wildfire. A spark of compassion does the same. This gives every person a kind of quiet responsibility. You may never see the full impact of your actions, but they echo. They always echo. And so, the man who lets another merge into traffic may lift a weight from that person's day. The woman who forgives a small slight may break a cycle of resentment. The stranger who smiles may interrupt someone's dark spiral. These are not minor gestures. They are the architecture of change. As the butterfly moves through the world, chaos becomes choreography. We begin to sense that everything we do matters, not in an anxious, self-absorbed way, but in a deeply freeing one. Life is not about controlling outcomes, but about participating fully in the dance, knowing that each step has meaning. Emotions move through people like wind through trees. A sigh, a laugh, a raised eyebrow. Each carries a charge, an energy that spreads beyond the body where it was born. This is the butterfly effect working through the human heart. It explains why moods are contagious, why one joyful person can lift a whole room, and why one bitter soul can drain its light. Psychologists have long studied emotional contagion. When someone near you smiles, mirror neurons in your brain light up, pulling your own face into a softer expression. When someone speaks with warmth, your pulse adjusts, your body relaxes. It happens below awareness, a silent choreography of human connection. But the effect does not stop with individuals. Entire communities rise or fall on collective mood. Think of a workplace where one leader's anxiety spreads downward, tightening every conversation, sharpening every exchange. Now, think of a workplace where the same leader projects calm, steadiness, and vision. The butterfly flaps its wings, and 1,000 professional lives bend subtly toward harmony or chaos. In families, small gestures echo across generations. A parent's habit of gentle words or harsh criticism shapes a child's inner voice. That voice travels forward in time, guiding how the child later loves, fights, works, dreams. These ripples are rarely linear. They loop, tangle, and resurface in unpredictable ways. Even memory itself is not stable. Studies show that each time we recall a memory, we change it slightly. The butterfly effect unfolds in the landscape of the mind, reshaping the past with each visit. What you remember today is not quite what happened. It is what you reconstructed, filtered through today's mood, today's story of self. The digital world amplifies emotional ripple effects in ways no previous generation has faced. A post goes viral, spreading outrage or joy across continents in hours. Social platforms create feedback loops where people are swept up in waves of feeling, often without understanding their source. A single image, a phrase, a misinterpreted gesture can stir revolutions or end careers. Algorithms intensify this dance. They are designed to maximize engagement, and nothing engages more powerfully than strong emotion. Anger, fear, delight. These are the fuels of the digital engine. And each click, each share, each reaction sends signals into the system, guiding what surfaces next. The butterfly's wings now beat in the cloud, in code, in the neural lace of the networked world. Yet amid this vast, often overwhelming interconnectedness, the individual remains powerful. The choice to pause before reacting, the decision to reach out with kindness, the effort to understand rather than judge, these are not trivial acts. They are interventions in the chain of cause and effect. They are the hands of the dancer, shaping the storm. Across cultures and centuries, people have intuited this truth. Ancient traditions speak of karma, of the moral weight of action. Philosophers have explored the tension between fate and free will, between the givenness of circumstance and the creativity of human choice. The butterfly effect bridges these worlds, suggesting that while we may not control the whole system, we are never irrelevant to it. Consider moments of forgiveness. To forgive is to break a pattern, to interrupt the expected flow of hurt, returning hurt. This is the butterfly at its most elegant, turning pain into peace, deflection into transformation. The smallest forgiveness can unclench fists far beyond its origin. Or think of art. A poem written in loneliness finds its way across time and space, touching a reader decades later. A song born of heartbreak becomes an anthem of resilience for strangers the artist will never meet. Creativity is the butterfly's playground, turning private experience into shared meaning, looping energy across boundaries. Even nature participates in this delicate dance. A single tree planted today cools the air, anchors the soil, shelters birds. Its presence alters the chemistry of its surroundings, drawing rain, softening wind, creating the conditions for other lives to thrive. Environmental scientists warn that one species lost may topple entire ecosystems. Yet they also remind us that one act of restoration can heal much. This is the heart of the mystery. We live in a world where everything touches everything, where no gesture is too small, no moment too fleeting. And when we open to this reality, the world begins to glow with meaning. We sense that the ordinary is laced with the extraordinary, that the mundane holds the seeds of magic. The butterfly effect teaches a paradox. You matter profoundly, and you're also part of something so vast that you will never fully grasp your own influence. This is not a reason for despair, but a call to humility and wonder. To walk through life knowing that your smallest move may shape a stranger's sky is to live as both artist and apprentice, both author and character. And so, the butterfly flies on, stirring currents seen and unseen. A word, a touch, a choice ripples outward. The storm gathers or dissolves. And somewhere, in a place you will never visit, a life turns on its axis because of something you barely remember doing. Inside every person lives a collection of roles, ancient patterns that shape behavior, often without conscious choice. These are the archetypes: the hero, the victim, the rebel, the lover, the sage. Timeless energies that move through human lives, whispering scripts into our ears. The butterfly effect dances through these patterns, nudging people into roles, triggering transformations, reshaping fates. Imagine a moment when someone, without knowing why, decides to step forward and protect another. In that moment, the hero archetype stirs. Or picture the friend who always sacrifices their own needs, again and again, without ever asking why. The victim archetype silently leads. None of this is random. Small experiences, gestures, comments, glances, they all feed the archetypes, pushing people into their next chapter. Psychologists have long understood that identity is not fixed. Instead, it flows between these roles, shaped by inner stories and outer cues. One small humiliation can awaken the rebel. One sudden success can summon the sage. A tiny moment, a passing comment, a flash of recognition, and the archetype inside rises, reshaping the whole personality. Movies and literature reflect this dance. The hero often receives a small sign, a chance encounter, a cryptic message. The villain crosses a threshold because of a slight, a betrayal, a perceived injustice. These are not just tropes. They mirror real human experience. The butterfly effect animates the narrative inside and outside of art, weaving meaning through chance. Consider leadership. A great leader often rises from unexpected conditions. Perhaps they were overlooked, underestimated, sidelined, until a moment comes when they are needed. A crisis, a comment, a minor challenge, and something within them awakens. The butterfly flaps, and a leader is born. Relationships, too, are filled with archetypal triggers. Lovers are drawn together not only by chemistry, but by the stories they activate in one another. A person who craves adventure may be pulled toward someone who carries the wanderer's flame. Another who seeks healing may magnetize toward a nurturer. Tiny details, a smile, a gesture, a phrase, unlock deep wells of meaning. Even in betrayal, the butterfly effect ripples. A seemingly small dishonesty plants doubt. Doubt festers, changes perception, rewrites memories, and soon the ground beneath a relationship crumbles. This is why trust feels so fragile, because it lives in the tiny, everyday moments, not just the grand declarations. The butterfly effect also reveals itself in how people face challenge. A small failure early in life can become a defining wound or a hidden strength. It depends on how the person interprets the event and on what follows. A kind word from a mentor may steer them toward growth. A mocking laugh from a peer may lock the failure in as shame. The difference hangs on slivers of experience. Culturally, archetypes shape revolutions and renaissances. A nation, wounded, may embrace the warrior spirit, rising up to reclaim dignity. A society, bored with conformity, may call forth the rebel, tearing down old orders. Artists, thinkers, leaders, they ride the waves of collective archetypes, catching the winds stirred by millions of butterfly wings. This awareness changes everything. Once a person sees that they are not just an isolated individual but a vessel for timeless patterns, they begin to listen more carefully. What archetype is moving through me now? What small event is calling me into a new role? And how do my choices ripple outward, feeding the collective story? There is a kind of sacred responsibility in this. To play one's role with awareness is to become a conscious participant in the human drama. To act blindly is to be swept up in the tides. The butterfly effect, when seen through the lens of archetypes, becomes not just a scientific observation, but a spiritual invitation. And in the quiet moments, when no one is watching, the dance continues. A small act of kindness, a private triumph over fear, a silent choice to forgive. These send ripples through the invisible web. A person who finds their strength, who steps into the hero or the sage, reshapes the emotional landscape of their world. Even loneliness carries its own archetypal weight. The hermit, the seeker, the wanderer, these figures have always walked the edges of society, gathering insight, carrying light into the dark. When someone feels isolated, they may be stepping into this ancient role, not as punishment, but as preparation. The butterfly leads them inward, where treasures wait in the silence. The world is filled with unseen currents, and we are the boats, the sailors, and sometimes the sea itself. To sense this is to live with wonder. To embrace it is to become an artist of one's own destiny. And so, the butterfly wings beat on, stirring winds within, moving people across thresholds, from shadow to light, from silence to song. There comes a moment on the path of change when the noise fades, and all that remains is the quiet pulse of the heart. This is the space of solitude, where the butterfly effect turns inward, where the ripples stop chasing outward recognition and begin shaping the inner world. Solitude is often misunderstood. People mistake it for emptiness, exile, punishment. But solitude, at its core, is a crucible. It is the place where the fragmented self begins to weave into wholeness. Without the distractions of approval or conflict, a person faces their own raw edges. And here, the butterfly flaps its wings softly, almost imperceptibly, but with immense power. Psychologists speak of self-reflection as one of the most transformative human capacities. Studies show that moments of quiet contemplation activate brain regions linked to insight, empathy, and meaning-making. It is in these moments that people begin to notice the subtle currents shaping their lives. The missed opportunities, the quiet callings, the unexamined dreams, they rise to the surface like forgotten islands. Alone, the person meets their own shadow, the regrets, the longings, the disappointments, all the parts left unspoken in the rush of living. And yet, within this meeting lies the seed of freedom. To see oneself clearly is to break the chains of unconscious repetition. The butterfly effect here becomes a turning inward, a repatterning of the self, where small shifts in perception lead to profound shifts in being. This is why many breakthroughs happen in stillness. The artist retreats, and the masterpiece emerges. The leader withdraws, and clarity sharpens. The healer sits in silence, and wisdom ripens. Solitude creates the conditions for the inner butterfly to fly, setting off cascades of insight and renewal. Yet even in solitude, we are never truly separate. The thoughts cultivated in quiet shape how we re-enter the world. The healing we claim alone softens how we touch others. Neuroscience tells us that empathy is built not just in interaction, but in imagination, in the silent rehearsal of other lives. When someone sits with their own pain, they deepen their capacity to hold the pain of others. And so, solitude becomes preparation. It readies the ground for authentic connection. It clears the noise, sharpening the signal of the heart. When people return from their inward journeys, they often carry gifts. gentleness, clarity, resilience that ripple into their communities. The butterfly has moved through them, and they become its wings in the world. In this space, freedom takes on new meaning. Freedom is no longer the absence of limits or the breaking of rules. It becomes the ability to choose one's response, to shape one's inner climate, regardless of external storms. Viktor Frankl, a survivor of unimaginable suffering, once wrote that, between stimulus and response, there is a space, and in that space lies our power to choose. That space is where the butterfly effect dances. True power, then, is not about domination. It is about alignment. It is the capacity to act from the center, to let one's choices be coherent with one's deepest values. A person who has tasted this power walks lightly but leaves deep footprints. They understand that every word matters, every silence carries weight, every gesture has consequences. On a collective level, this kind of freedom and power changes societies. Movements rooted in conscious, value-driven action tend to endure longer, leave deeper marks, and avoid the pitfalls of reactive rebellion. The butterfly effect plays out in social change, where small, consistent acts of courage create waves that reshape norms, laws, cultures. The paradox is striking. The smaller the act, the greater its potential reach. One voice speaking calmly in chaos can anchor a room. One quiet refusal to participate in harm can inspire others to reconsider their choices. One person living authentically can become a lighthouse for countless others navigating storms of doubt and fear. And yet, this path is not without cost. Those who wake up to the power of small things often find themselves walking alone, at least for a time. They become aware of patterns others ignore. They sense consequences others dismiss, and this can create a quiet ache of distance. But within that ache lives a hidden gift, the discovery that solitude is not loneliness, and that freedom is not isolation. The butterfly continues its journey, now no longer just an external force, but an inner companion. The person learns to read the signs in their own life, to listen for the subtle shifts, to trust the quiet promptings. They become an artist of their own becoming, shaping not just what they do, but how they are. And as this inner alignment deepens, something extraordinary happens. The person no longer fears chaos, no longer resists uncertainty. They understand that within the unpredictable lies the creative. They become not a victim of the butterfly effect, but a co-creator within it, adding their own breath to the great unfolding of the world. All along, the butterfly has been circling closer, its wings brushing the edges of awareness, its quiet power humming beneath every word, every choice, every moment of stillness. And now, at the end, the final secret unfolds. You are the butterfly. This is the truth that lingers long after the video fades. You are not just a witness to the dance of chaos and order. You are not a passive leaf on the wind. Every breath you take, every step you make, every thought you entertain ripples outward, shaping the world in ways you cannot see, but that matter deeply. The most extraordinary fact of all is this: the smallest shift within you can unlock vast change outside you. A new thought softens an old wound. A brave conversation heals a hidden fracture. A single moment of presence reshapes a lifetime of absence. Scientists call it sensitivity to initial conditions. Mystics call it awakening. Artists call it inspiration. But no matter the language, the message is the same. There is no such thing as an insignificant act. There is no such thing as an ordinary life. So, here is the bonus. The gift to carry forward. For 1 week, watch the small things. Notice the tone of your voice, the glance you offer a stranger, the story you tell yourself in moments of doubt. Watch how tiny choices shape the mood of a room, the flow of a day, the meaning of a life. And as you do, remember this: you are already making waves. You always have been. And somewhere, perhaps far away, perhaps very near, someone's world is shifting because you dared to flap your wings. The truth is simple and vast. You are the butterfly. Every word, every glance, every small choice ripples outward, reshaping the world in quiet ways. Nothing you do is without meaning. For 1 week, just watch. How a smile softens a moment, how a kind word lingers, how your presence shifts a space. You are not a bystander here. You are part of the dance, part of the change, already sending waves into the world. We're sure you've discovered plenty of value, so subscribe now and stay connected.